At the end of the day, whether it's AI or not, you can't serve a customer without a good understanding of them, and you need complete, accurate, and structured data.
Welcome to the Connected Conversations in Insurance podcast. My name is Ray Huang. I am your host, and with me today is the CEO of Canopy Connect, my friend Tolga Tezel. Tolga, thanks so much for coming.
Thanks for scheduling this with me, Ray.
Yeah. To the folks that don't know you, you're the founder and CEO of this company. This was your brainchild that you came up with 5-6 years ago. Maybe let's go back to the start. What was that spark that helped you say, this is something I want to build and this is something I want to do?
Yeah, it really comes back to me finding consumer permission data and discovering that as a category of business to build. Prior to starting Canopy Connect, I was an early engineer at a startup that was helping individuals with thin credit files or no credit files share alternative data, like data that you wouldn't find in a credit bureau about somebody, helping them get fair access to credit from lenders, banks, rental applications, car purchases. I saw firsthand that you could build this business where you help consumers make their own data work for them to help them produce better outcomes for themselves, better financial outcomes for themselves as a result of that. I love that. I'm an optimistic person. I feel like a business constructed the right way can be a force of good for the people around us. As long as the thing that you are building, your profit engine and your business activities are focused around something that results in a net good for society, you can feel good about scaling that business because that allows you to scale that positive impact to society. For me, discovering consumer permission data was a really clear instance of how you can do that. And building at my former company, I started to really become aware of just how much data there exists about every one of us in all these big company databases. And we're in this era where people are recognizing that there's all this data about them out there on the internet. We're in a regulatory environment, in a consumer awareness environment where people and regulators recognize just how much this data is in the hands of companies. And they're trying to give consumers more and more right to wield that data for their own benefits. And seeing that, it felt like this was the perfect time to build a consumer permission data company. But like, what data could we unlock for individuals? And I was really thinking about more in the sort of the fintech and credit space. But what changed the direction was that I had a random conversation with a friend's mom who's an insurance agency owner. And she was telling me that she had been asking her prospects details over the phone to understand their insurance profile. And she told me, she's like, Tolga, if I know somebody's insurance details, if I understand their situation, I can usually provide them a proposal that will protect them better than what they have today. It'll improve upon their risk management. But the way that the problem for her was that she needed to actually understand your current situation. And so she was doing the thing that a lot of insurance agents do, where she'd get on the phone with her prospects and she'd ask them, what's your VIN number? What's your annual mileage? What are your premiums, limits, deductibles? And what's your BI limit? People don't know any of that information. And so about half of them would just drop off out of her funnel at that point without even getting to a quote, because they're just like, I don't know that information. Let me get back to you later.
And then they ghost them.
And they never hear from them again, right? And every insurance agent will be familiar with that. That's, we've heard that from so many insurance agents. And she told me that she had changed her process to something that was working well for her, but it was still really tedious. And what she was doing was she had started driving to her clients' houses and showing them how to log into their own online insurance account, because that data in their online insurance account would help her understand their current situation and help her provide good quality advice on their coverage. And so she would drive to your house, you'd let her in, she'd say, who are you with? You tell her which insurer you're insured with, and she would show you how to log into your online insurance account, download your documents and details. And then she would drive back to her office and review it, point out coverage gaps, and potentially provide a proposal that would protect you better. And it was like, it'd be amazing if there was some way technology could help me with this. And I heard her out and I was like, people are already connecting their bank accounts left, right, and center to different financial applications. You can connect your bank account to Venmo, you can connect your bank account to PayPal, Personal Capital, Rocket Money, so on and so forth. It's become really popular and commonplace. Why can't you connect your insurance account to a business that needs to know your insurance details if you want to work with them?
Right.
And so, if this technology exists in banking and finance, why doesn't it exist in insurance? And it just turned out that it hadn't actually been built. And so that's how the whole thing started. And like what gets me really excited today about what we're building is that we're helping facilitate consumer choice. A consumer wants to work with a business in order to receive the business's services, their advice, or to get something done. They need to share information with a business. They know that, and the business knows that. But there's this gap of like people don't know what a declarations page is. They don't know where to get all these details. If you have multiple insurance policies, there's a lot of clicking around portals and trying to dig through your emails and just dig up these documents and details that you don't even know what they're referring to.
Right.
And it just creates this unnecessary friction where 10 years from now, this is not going to be how people and business exchange insurance information or other types of information. We're moving to this world where consumers across the board on all of their key data elements, they're connecting accounts of different kinds to businesses, and that allows businesses to quickly understand who they're dealing with and provide high quality service to them, and it helps consumers work with the businesses that they choose to work with. And so it's really for us just about putting the power in the consumer's hands to work, share information quickly, easily, and securely, and saving time, making better decisions for them, and for a business to be able to understand the consumer and serve them better because they have that data on them that they need.
Right. Right. And as the, I mean, it's been 5.5, 6 years since that origin happened. You built it out, I'm sure, with a handful of carriers and then more and then more and then more. And I know we're at a place where it's well over 300 carriers that we can connect with. When you think back to those early days, what did you think the company would become? Like if we went back to 2020, you know, and we go, hey, Tolga, what does this look like in 2025? Like what, where do you think, where does 2020 Tolga think this company would be?
I think it's played out in a really fascinating way where a lot of businesses end up changing directions pretty dramatically. I think for us, it's been the same vision and mission, but more clarity each step along the way of what that actually looks like and all the different businesses that we can work with. It turns out that there's billions of businesses in the United States that need to know your insurance details for one reason or another. And back in 2020, I hypothesized that there would be a lot of different types of businesses that need to know your insurance information, but I didn't understand the market as well as I do now. And I'm sure a few years from now, I'll look back on today and say that I still didn't understand quite a lot. I mean, we're learning all the time. And that's one of the amazing things about building a startup is that like I feel like I'm learning as aggressively now 5 years in as I was on day one, which is a great feeling. But yeah, in the early days, it was pretty, the way I thought about it was pretty straightforward. It was like, okay, I spoke to this insurance agency owner. Let me go speak to other insurance agency owners and see if they have the same problems. Turned out they're all telling us some version of getting the information I need to advise clients on their insurance is like pulling teeth. They literally would say that same phrase to me over and over again.
Mm-hmm.
And when we would show them how they can get a full picture on their prospect in a 20-second end-to-end process without filling in long forms, without sending them on a wild goose chase to go and dig up their documents and details, the response was really, really positive. They were like, this would make my life so much easier. They were kind of shocked at how complete and accurate this data profile that they were seeing was and how quickly we were able to get it. Because, you compare that to this 20, 30 minute long interrogation on a prospect just to get an understanding of their auto policy or their home policy. Whereas, you replace that with a 20-second process, and you're able to understand their complete insurance profile across all of the lines of business that they have. What policies they have, what are their insured properties and vehicles, their coverages, their claims and loss history, their deck pages, the full picture. Do they have an umbrella policy? All of that information in 20 to 30 seconds. It's just a dramatic change. And so the way I thought about it in the early days in 2020 was, let's focus on making insurance agents and agency owners successful. If we can do that, then there probably are a lot of other businesses in the United States that need to verify somebody's insurance information for one reason or another too, like an auto finance company or a mortgage lender, or something else. But if we can't make a better process, a better user experience than interrogating somebody over the phone for 30 minutes, like if we can't do better than that, then we probably don't have a viable business. So let's start there. And so it's kind of this process of adding one layer to the onion over time, with that first layer being, okay, can we beat a 30-minute interrogation? Can we make a process better than that? And if so, we have something. And if for whatever reason we can't, like maybe in the early days, it's like, are people going to be willing to connect their insurance account to a business? Like it hadn't been proven in the early days. So it's like, okay, well, people are doing this. They're connecting their bank accounts to tens of millions of American adults have connected. So more than a third, actually, of American adults have connected their bank accounts to multiple financial applications. Would they do something like that with their insurance accounts? Maybe, maybe not. We had to go and find out. So it was this process of, well, let's try this out in an industry where there's a really big pain point that's clear, and they're telling us that. And then once we figure that out, we'll look to serve other industries too with this same kind of infrastructure.
Yeah. And we've surpassed 20,000 insurance agents using our platform. I'll say we've largely validated the pain point with our 20,000 users using it. And we're moving towards some other verticals, other businesses that are seeing that, hey, we can also make use of this insurance verification technology. So maybe talk us through some of those different use cases of other companies, other types of businesses that need to verify or intake or collect insurance information.
Yeah. So, and to set the stage here, I guess in a few words, what Canopy Connect does is we're the fastest way to exchange verified insurance information between two parties, between somebody who has insurance information about them out there because they have some policies, and a business that needs to understand their insurance profile. There are a lot of businesses that fall in the bucket of needs to know somebody's insurance details, but it's insurance companies, which are businesses in the business of selling insurance information to prospects, who need to know somebody's insurance profile so that they can understand where they are today, point A, and provide them a proposal, point B, which protects them better, manages their risk better, provides them better coverage, or saves them money, or both, addresses some kind of coverage gap. And in that bucket, you've got insurance agencies, large and small. We work with single person agencies all the way up to 12 of the top 30 property and casualty agencies in the United States, insurance marketplaces, insurance carriers, MGAs. Then you've got automotive and mobility, where there are a lot of different types of use cases in businesses. There's auto dealerships, auto finance companies, gig economy companies, fleets, both of personal vehicles where workers bring their personal vehicles to work, and commercial fleets where commercial vehicle drivers do delivery. You got delivery networks, companies, transportation network companies, auto rental companies, and third-party compliance. A lot of different businesses in that bucket. There's over 1 million fleets in the United States. And then the third bucket is mortgage, which simplifying, it's mortgage lenders, mortgage servicers primarily. And for those two other buckets, it's not about selling insurance usually. It's sometimes it's a combination, but it's more
Yeah.
about I need to verify that somebody has auto insurance that meets certain requirements so that they can drive the vehicle off the lot. Most auto purchases are financed. So if the car buyer drives the vehicle off the lot and they don't have active or sufficient insurance, they crash the vehicle. Now the auto finance company experiences a total loss of their asset.
All right.
And so verifying insurance is a requirement before driving the vehicle off the lot. Make sure that the financial interest of the auto finance company is protected. And for delivery network companies and transportation network companies, it's about risk management, making sure that before a delivery occurs or before a passenger is transported around, that the driver is legally driving the vehicle and they have sufficient insurance. And then for rental companies, it's more on the rental and loaners. It's the same auto dealership use case where there's an asset that's being driven off the lot. And to protect the financial interest in the vehicle, the right insurance needs to be in place. And sometimes it's about a one time verification, other times it's about monitoring, making sure that somebody's maintaining that insurance because they might drive off the lot with insurance. But if they just go and call their agent and cancel their policy,
Right.
then they crash the vehicle, you've still experienced a total loss of the asset. And the
I got to
use
imagine on the rental side of things too, because I know when I rent a car, they either never ask me anything about insurance or sometimes they'll be like, oh, what's your carrier and policy number? And then they type that into their thing and then they move on. I could have given them any number, any carrier. There's no actual verification going on. They're just like, let me just make a note of that in case something happens. I got to imagine also it's really lucrative for them to create kind of an upsell opportunity. If insurance verification is part of the rental process when you're at the kiosk or whatever, to be able to ask that and they go, oh, you don't have insurance. Oh, you only have liability insurance or whatever. Then that's like a trigger for like a, think of a sales process to be like, oh, well, maybe we can go a little harder on selling a protection plan,
yeah,
which I imagine is profitable.
yeah,
Right.
yeah. It's both about protecting the downside as well as creating a
Creating
revenue
an
opportunity,
upside.
which is an upside.
Yeah.
If that individual drives the vehicle off the lot and crashes it, you might experience total loss of the asset. And this is actually very common.
Yeah.
It's just that businesses are typically only really aware of this once they experience the downside. Once somebody drives a vehicle off the lot and crashes it, and then
Yep.
they lose $30,000 or $50,000, and then they start to say, okay, how could we prevent this from happening again? So it's a pretty common story that we'll talk to a company that says like, hey, we had this happen to us last year, and we want to make sure it doesn't happen again.
Right.
The other thing that's happening in automotive and mobility right now is that fraud is really rampant. The advancements in generative AI have made it easier than ever to falsify documents. So you see people coming in with fake auto ID cards, fake driver's licenses. Sometimes they're generating documents that are a mix of real and fake information. So some of the information you might check out actually turns out to be real and legit, but then other
Sure.
bits of the information aren't. The way to solve this in automotive, the automotive is actually hit the hardest out of any industry by this kind of fraud. And more than 95% of fake documents are making it through verification right now.
Hmm.
So in online, it's even worse. Like people do things like upload a photo of an animal or something and they'll still make it through. And even if you have a document that, let's just say it's legitimate right now, well, you can just go and cancel the policy. And then it doesn't matter that you had a legitimate document a few minutes ago because your policy is canceled.
Right.
So the real solution to this problem is to connect directly to the source of truth for data and to use the source of truth, not rely on a document, not trust anything at any document they're receiving at a point in time, or even checking it to see if it looks legitimate, or is even if it is legitimate, it doesn't matter. Just connect directly to the source of truth, and then the problem is solved because directly from the source of truth in real time that this insurance is legitimate and the details of it.
Mm-hmm.
And then you don't need to rely on documents. And what we're seeing in rental and loaner vehicle workflows now is also just this idea of proactive verification. So you'll receive a link or an email or a text message to verify your insurance before you show up at the desk, which also means that the time at the desk, the wait time, the lines go down, and you're able to move renters or loaners into their vehicles faster. Just speed up. It doesn't need to even be something that takes any time at the desk. It can just be, prior to showing up, the verification is taken care of.
Got it. And then you were mentioning about the lending side of the world, mortgage and mortgage servicing. Tell us a bit about how Canopy Connect's working within those spaces.
Yeah. So any type of mortgage loan, whether it's a first purchase or a refi or a HELOC or home equity investment, any type of mortgage loan, they all require the verification of insurance for the loan to be closed and funded, because similar to the auto use case, that you have a really expensive asset that your financial interest needs to be protected on. It might be talking about a home that's 300 to 500,000 or more, and if the borrower doesn't have home insurance that covers the home, and God forbid there's a fire or a flood or a hurricane or windstorm, your financial interest in the property is not protected unless insurance is in place and the right details are on the insurance policy. For example, it's covered for replacement cost. Mm-hmm. The specific perils that the home is subject to are covered by the insurance policy, like fire, flood, earthquake, etc. If it's in a flood zone, it requires flood insurance. And 95% plus of lenders are subject to GSE requirements. So there's actually a huge checklist of insurance checks that they need to perform. Our infrastructure connects directly to the source of truth, to the carrier system of record, to return the verified insurance details on the home insurance and the flood insurance that you would need to verify. But it also is able to perform these checks automatically, digitally. There's no need for somebody on the other side reading an insurance document and interpreting it and running through a checklist of dozens of checks to make sure that it meets the lender's investor requirements. It can just be a done for you check. And so we turn that process from a bunch of back and forth and a wild goose chase to dig up documents and details, and then OCRing the documents or reading them and keying them into the loan origination system or the point of sale system, and uploading documents and calling the insurance agent to update the mortgagee clause. All of that just becomes a done for you check mark. You're ready to go. You can move on past the insurance requirements. It's already taken care of for you. And that is what lenders really want. They don't want to have to deal with insurance. If it can just be turned into a check mark,
yeah,
they can fund loans faster. They can cut days off the loan closing process, and they can do it in a way that is also cheaper operationally for them. They don't need to spend all this time chasing down borrowers for details and interpreting their documents and calling the insurance agents. It's a win for the borrower, it's a win for the lender, and it's a win for the insurance carrier, because they don't need to take all these phone calls to answer questions about the insurance policy. It's just taken care of for all parties involved because of consumer permission data.
So updating lien holders and mortgagees, you mentioned, how does that functionally work for, when we do need, the loan gets sold here and there and we need to update the mortgagee? How does that actually work?
Yeah, so before the loan can be funded, the mortgagee clause needs to reflect the information of the entity who has a financial interest in the property. Today, what's happening is that the lender asks the borrower to call their insurance agent and put in this very specific clause for their company on the insurance policy in the right position in the mortgagee clause. Mm-hmm. This is a process that takes multiple days to write. Yeah. And there's this whole back and forth ping pong game where The lender asks the borrower to do it, checks if it's done. The borrower needs to get the updated insurance documents that reflect the change. It's this multi step process that typically takes a week or more to get done. And it's just a lot of wasted time. It's not good for the borrower. They're just trying to move into their house and they have this annoying insurance requirement to take care of. They got to go and call their agent. They get put on hold. Their agent's not in the office. They get a call back later, or they're just waiting around for their agent to pick up. Agent picks up eventually. They have to be completely exact with this clause, which often means spelling out numbers and letters that aren't familiar to them, PO box numbers, legal names. Like it's a very long clause.
Yeah.
And it's got to be exactly right. Often what will happen is it'll be partially incorrect, but the borrower doesn't really understand the implication of that. The lender will get them to update it again, call the agent again. Once the change is made, the new documents reflecting the updated mortgagee clause need to be generated, and the borrower needs to go and get those and then share those with the lender. And so this is why it usually takes, and for the agent, it's just a cost center. And
Yeah, it's just extra service work that they need to do just to maintain it back and forth, both for the agent, for the carrier.
yeah, so I'm in all these Facebook groups that insurance agents are in, and I regularly hear them complaining about this.
Yeah.
They're like, for them, it's like a 30-minute, it's not just even updating they have to update the mortgagee clause. They got to answer a bunch of questions on the insurance policy. It's really a burden for them. They want to focus on building relationships with their customers and revenue generating activity. They don't want to spend time on this kind of stuff.
Right.
And so, it takes a lot of time. It's tedious for everybody involved. The way that we solve this problem is we make it self-serve for the borrowers. They provide their consent, and then we retrieve the mortgage clause that needs to be made to the insurance policy, and then we show the borrower what the change is going to be. They click a button to confirm it. So they see a preview of the change, they click a button to confirm it, and it's taken care of. And so we turn that process into a self-serve, like 20-second process. You see the preview, you click the button to confirm, and then you're done. That's sort of the core of what we built for mortgage servicing. The extension of that we're making now, and we've been working on for a good chunk of this year, is turning that into self-serve for the lender too. So the lender who has a financial interest in the policy can go and request a change get made, and then we're able to get it. And sometimes without the borrower needing to do anything other than connecting their accounts in the first place. So it turns it into a process that takes maybe 20 seconds. And then we go and retrieve the updated insurance details and provide that back to the lender so they're able to close the loop fully.
Yeah.
The request is made, they see the status of that, they see when it's action, they receive the evidence of the change being made, and then they're able to close the loop fully and proceed to funding the loan. It can be done in as fast as seconds end to end. And that is a really big change for lenders and for borrowers. It allows them to cut days off the closing process and reduce the amount of overhead that goes into getting these changes done.
Yeah. Yeah. I could see that being tremendously valuable, I think. And I love the application of taking this technology and applying it towards these different verticals now, like in the mortgage space, in automotive, and the different subsegments of automotive, the dealerships, the rentals, and the fleets, and kind of the gig economy, which is huge and growing, like being able to manage all those through the monitoring aspect of Canopy Connect. That is amazing.
The thing that ties all these things together is that it's always about helping the consumer gain value and convenience from their insurance data. It's making their life easier based on that, them having these insurance policies in place. So, once they have the policy in place, verifying it, closing on a mortgage loan, getting a new car, or getting insurance advice, all of these things become really easy for them. And it's a win for all of the parties involved because it means for carriers, for example, it means a lower cost of servicing.
Mm-hmm.
That means that their agents and their sales and servicing staff are able to focus on revenue generating activity and building relationships with customers instead of burdensome service work that doesn't actually help them build a relationship or generate revenue. And then for the businesses that receive the data, it's about serving their customer faster. So closing a mortgage loan faster, allowing their car buyer to drive off the lot with their new vehicle faster, or get the right coverage in place for them. All of these things are about starting with the consumer, facilitating their choice to share their data, transact around their insurance with the business that they want to work with, and the business is able to serve them better, and carriers are able to compete on building relationships and finding value rather than this burdensome service work that nobody
Yeah.
really wants to do.
Yeah. Amazing. Amazing. You were recently at ITC last month. Was there anything there that caught your eye, caught your attention? Any themes that stood out?
ITC was amazing this year. I think the trend for me has been that it just keeps getting better and better. I remember the first time I went to ITC, I think this was our third one.
Yeah.
The first one felt, I mean, it was my first major insurance conference that I've been to. I felt a little out of place. I didn't know anybody. Like, who are these people over there? They seem to know one another. And just like push through it by, like going and meeting people and having conversations. But this year, I show up and I was reflecting on it. I feel like I know like one in every 30 to 40 people here or something like that.
And there's like
But like,
8,000 people that go to this conference. Like it's
yeah,
crazy
it's
big.
12,000 people this year. The agent side of the conference was really amazing. Last year was the first year that there was an ITC agent section, and it was segregated. So you'd have to get separate tickets for ITC agents versus the non-agent part, the more tech company part. And I'm really glad that this year it was all just one thing that allowed agents to get exposure to the tech to get exposure to agents. This is part of building a healthy ecosystem. I'm glad that agents are a real part of this conference now. It felt like that was missing before. The team has been doing a great job. Ryan Hanley and others were a big part of that, really growing it through word of mouth. And I hope next year they get some more marketing support to be able to blow it up even further. But,
Yeah.
more than doubled the agent audience this year, which was great. Walking around the floor, we run into different people that we know, which is such a great feeling. One of the themes that stuck out to me a lot this year is just the appetite for partnerships. We had a lot of companies coming to us excited about partnering because of things like, hey, we have mutual customers that are asking about integrating with Canopy Connect. We can help them generate new revenue opportunities using the data they collect through Canopy Connect, or help them generate accord forms, or turn on messaging tools. There's a lot of different use cases. Once you get all this really high quality, complete data on your prospects, you can do a lot with that data. One of our strategic goals is to be the best connected insurance infrastructure. We want to be a part of this story of helping turn this industry into more of a connected ecosystem. We want our customers to live in whatever tools they want to live in. It doesn't need to be our tool, right? They don't need to spend all their time in our dashboard. We have this dashboard, but it's really there to provide a way for our customers to visually see the data and be able to push it into other systems that they want to use it with. But if you really like this Rater or this CRM or this AMS or some other tool, we want to integrate with that tool so that you can make this data work for you wherever your workflows live. We're seeing a lot of vendors in the ecosystem come to us to partner with us to leverage that data that our mutual customers have to complete workflows on their tools. And that's great. I mean, that's awesome. We love that. There's a lot of that kind of conversation happening at the conference. And you hear agents and other customers of ours get excited about it. They were talking about like, hey, it'd be great if you guys integrated with this tool so that I can, get such and such thing done in this tool. I have your data over here and this tool over here. If the Connect data was plugged into that tool, then I could complete this workflow. Coming out of that, a lot more integrations are underway. A lot of great partnership opportunities there where for us, if we can help our customers make better use of that data, that's awesome. That's something that we're always looking to do.
Yeah. I mean, that data is not nearly as useful in a silo. Like I mean, it's in the name, right? Canopy Connect. You want to connect that data somewhere else. That's where it becomes valuable, and that's where it becomes transformative in a process, and being able to send it to your raters, your CRM, whatever system. And again, for all the different use cases that we have been talking about today. So I'm glad to hear a lot of our friends that are coming around, and we're getting more connected and getting more systems online and being able to send our data like literally anywhere. Like send the data to the systems that you use most. Right?
Exactly.
Like it doesn't matter what that is or what your use case is. If we can get that data and you know, we have a great API and we've got the native integrations that we've built between the systems as well. So like you literally, and we have Zapier, so you can literally do almost anything with that data,
Yeah.
and we're making it easier and easier as we go.
I mean, this industry has been plagued with multiple data entry. It's very common still today for businesses to do data entry of the same information into multiple different
Mm-hmm.
tools. So we're turning that multiple data entry into zero data entry. You don't need to spend time chasing down prospects for information, uh, keying things into any systems. We just turn that into, self-serve. The prospect shares that information via Canopy Connect, and then it just feeds into the workflows, into your Radar, into your CRM, into your AMS. If you're an auto dealership, it might be your dealership management system or the software that you use for rental or loaner vehicles, or your CRM. In mortgage, you've got point of sale systems and loan origination systems. No matter the use case, you're always living in a variety of tools, and we turn that multiple data entry into zero data entry. It's all just there in your tools. And now you can go to the next step and get the thing done that you're trying to get done with your prospect or your customer, which insurance, it might be put together a proposal for them with all the data already ready to go. And you can start immediately talking to them through coverage gaps and how your proposal protects them better. In automotive or mobility, it might be the check mark that you need. It's all in your tools recorded. You don't need to type in or copy and paste information. It's good to go, and you can move the vehicle off the lot. And in mortgage, it's again, a done for you check mark, and now you can close a loan and fund, and the borrower can move into their new house a week earlier. So in all these cases, it's like our job is to connect to the source of truth of the insurance data, the complete and accurate record of it, and connect to that data quickly, easily, and securely, and then feed it into the workflow, which usually lives in some other tool to get the job done. And that's really, when you look at it at a bird's eye view, that's sort of really what we're about across the board. And that's true of any use case that we serve. One of the things that's been really great about our vision and how it's a pretty, I don't know if timeless is the right word, but it's a vision that makes just as much sense in a world with AI than the pre-AI world, right?
Right.
In order for AI to, whether or not your business use AI, you need high quality, complete and accurate data on your customers or your prospects. That's just fundamental. You can't serve somebody that you don't understand. So you need to understand them, and data is how you're going to understand them. Now, regardless of how much it's an AI tool versus a human involvement, you need high quality, complete and accurate data to get it done. To make AI work for you, the key thing is feeding it the right context to get the right response back, provide the right advice, or complete the workflow. We're seeing a lot of AI companies also come to us to say like, hey, how can I integrate with you guys to feed this data into my AI tooling to complete my workflows? It's an interesting thing where we're seeing it just as relevant pre-AI as with AI. At the end of the day, whether it's AI or not, you can't serve a customer without a good understanding of them, and you need complete, accurate, and structured data. Works really well in an AI context too because it's all structured information,
Right.
and it's complete and accurate. So, so that I would say that's another theme that came out of this ITC.
Yeah. All right, Tolga. Well, I thank you so much for joining us on this podcast. This is our season finale, I guess, for season 2 of this episode. So it's a perfect way to cap it off to have you here. So thank you so much for joining.
Thank you, Ray.
All right.
Thank you for listening.
Yeah, follow us on all the channels. We're on all the socials in various forms of Canopy Connect or use Canopy. And until next season, I will see you guys later. Take care.